This is our own private requiem, Erica, my darling. A requiem for the living, not the dead. The service Reverend Dawson conducted was for your sister Allison's peace of mind. My peace will come only when you are freed from this capsule and returned to life once again to me. Everyone here on Merjardin doubts that cryonics will be a reality in my lifetime. That is the only hope that keeps me alive. I love you, and I shall continue to love you as long as we will be together again.
You poor dear, you must be exhausted.
Exhausted, Mrs. Marshall. Emotionally strung out. Very nervous.
You've every right. It's been a shattering day for you and Mr. Desmond. His darling wife, your dear sister. But it was a lovely service.
Lovely? That's hardly the word that I'd use for a service for the dead.
Perhaps you're right. It was a poor choice. Tasteful?
There are no words to ease sorrow, Mrs. Marshall. Only time will do that.
And it will. Now, why don't you take yourself to bed, Dr. Carr? You can certainly do with the rest.
No, not until I've spoken to Dan Forrest.
And Mr. Desmond, of course.
No, not Jean-Paul. No, I think he'd best be left to himself, to his own personal sorrow. For the moment, at any rate.
Poor man. He has so much, and yet so little.
It seems without Erica, he has nothing.
Where is he, by the way?
He's still in the crypt with my sister.
Do you mind if I keep you company till he comes back?
You're his guest, Mrs. Marshall, not mine. And this is his house. I couldn't object if I wanted to, which I don't. But I must tell you, he has been known to spend the whole night down there with her.
The entire night? In that dismal place?
Erica's there. To Jean-Paul, it's not dismal. She's the one and only love of his life. She still is.
Oh, Allison, I was wondering... Oh, Mrs. Marshall, good evening.
Mr. Forrest. Well, I assume that you two would like to be alone.
On a purely legal matter, yes.
Suddenly, I'm quite weary. Nothing to do with the company, of course. Good night. As a matter of fact, I'm half asleep already.
But what did you find out?
That I have a weak back and sore feet. Prowling around those docks looking for a boat to get us out of here is a job for a younger man.
But if Jean-Paul says that you can leave whenever you want to, why are you so cloak and daggerish about it?
Because I expect he's going to change his mind if he hasn't already. And an alternate plan is good policy.
That isn't a good plan. Unless you can navigate a channel that even the natives fear to challenge.
I don't challenge the Almighty, Erica, dear. I simply challenge his right to take what is rightfully mine. You, my darling wife. You.
You can't be serious, Dan. That's sure death.
That channel is no more dangerous than Jean-Paul, or whatever possesses him to think he's all-powerful.
No power in the present or from the past, or unknown in the future. No being, whether real or imagined, will stand in the way of our new life together. For your life, I will sacrifice all others, if need be.
Why so harsh on Jean-Paul, after all these years together?
Because I believe in at least a teaspoonful of honesty once every 24 hours. And now that I'm no longer associated with him, I intend to follow that prescription closely.
You're no longer with him? Since when?
Well, didn't you hear? I got myself fired day before yesterday. That's 48 hours on the unemployment rolls.
What happened?
I dared to question the Almighty.
God?
The man who thinks he is.
Well, if you're on the outs, why did he bring you here?
Oh, on some pretext of letting bygones be bygones. Perhaps because he didn't have any choice. You see, I had him over a barrel.
Skeleton in the family closet?
No, a letter you wrote, which he thought was never delivered.
You mean it was mailed after all?
No, but Vanjie saw Jean-Paul trying to burn it, so she accidentally on purpose bumped into him, doused the flame, rescued the remains, became alarmed with it, and then called me.
I wrote that letter before I understood Jean-Paul's obsession.
Oh, do you mean to say that now you do understand it?
No, not really, but I'm getting to understand Jean-Paul a little better. That's why I was almost glad when he told me that the letter hadn't been mailed.
Almost, but not sure. He admitted he hadn't mailed the letter, eh?
Yes. Don't you know why he wants to keep it secret on the island? About Erica and the cryonic capsule?
Well, you're the doctor on the island. I'm only trying to cure the legal ills. Now, don't tell me you're sold on this cryonics process.
No. Lots of people are, but I can't say that I can be counted as one of them. No, it's Jean-Paul himself that I'm interested in.
Oh. Well, now I understand.
No, you don't, Dan. Perhaps I should have said that I'm concerned with.
So am I. If you ask me, Jean-Paul is prisoner number 1 on this island.
Yes, but prisoner by his own choice.
Which we aren't.
Because he must keep his secret on the island.
A self-appointed regent with unwilling subjects. If you ask me, the man faces revolt, and when that time comes, I'm going to be among the leaders. You know, I just can't read him, Allison. He switches from hot to cold like a temperamental motel shower.
Well, there are two sides to all of us, Dan.
The blessed and the damned. Yes, I know the philosophy.
There are times when we all sit on a razor's edge. Unfortunately, if we slip, we can be cut.
But why bleed, Allison, when we can prevent it?
I'm not leaving him, Dan. He needs my help.
I want to help him too, but not by aiding and abetting a wrongdoing.
But he thinks what he's doing is right.
Unfortunately for him, and for us.
You know what you're saying?
Yes, that Jean-Paul is a dangerous man.
That's brutal and totally wrong.
Not by my instincts, and not by his actions. Now, you're not going to tell me that you think he's totally in control of himself.
Counselor, may I speak in my own defense? I should be allowed to testify.
How much have you heard?
Enough to know my friends and enemies.
We're both your friends, Jean-Paul.
In spite of what I've heard, I'll accept that for the time being.
Well, now, what's that supposed to mean?
The facts will eventually speak for themselves, Dan. As an attorney, you should know, a case can be won or lost on a poor presentation of facts. I had to discover that love and companionship were not on the buyer's market. It was especially difficult for me, since people would trade friendship for money, particularly women. And then I met Erica. She could have had a career for herself in the theater, public adulation, everything she wanted. But she wanted only me. Just me. And I wanted her. She gave up everything for me, and I likewise will give up everything to prevent anyone from stopping me. No matter what it entails, Nobody stops me. Well, well, well. Best speech I've heard since Et tu, Brute. Now don't stare so. Your guests will think you are enamored of me. And with your back to them, you may wind up as Caesar with a knife in it. Unless you beat them to the punch.